Downward dog isn't just a transition pose, it's a full body reset. So whether you're new to yoga or you've been teaching for years, this posture is always worth revisiting because we practice it so often. The way you practice can evolve with you, and refining it brings long-term growth into your yoga journey. So now we'll look at the foundations of this posture, nervous system benefits, and also meridian connections that maybe you've never even thought about. So to begin this tutorial, I want you to do this with me. You can sit on your mat and take your right hand onto the top of your left shoulder. It's feeling into your trapezius muscle, and now begin to reach out through your left arm. As you take that up, use your right hand to encourage your trap to release and soften. So you're maintaining this space between your ear and your shoulder. You're staying relaxed more through the traps. And so this movement is actually happening through your lats, through your back, up through the side body, instead of the traps. So go ahead, release that. And now take your arms up like you're pressing into a block. And begin to lift your shoulders up and roll your shoulders with your arms overhead and your hands facing in. And then let them release down the back, stabilizing the shoulder blades into your back. So this feels active, just with the arms overhead. Keeping this placement through the shoulders, through the arms, and then just turn the hands, right? It feels quite active for me right now. I'm curious to hear your experience of this exploration. Now, the reason I'm breaking this down is because it's really common in downward dog that this happens. And as we're doing this, we're creating restriction through the shoulders. We aren't increasing our range of motion in the shoulders. Now, you might not have this range where your arms are all the way aligned with your ears, because this develops with practice, this extension through the lats. So maybe your arms are here, and depending on where they come to, where you can maintain this integrity through the rotation of your shoulders, keeping the scapulas planted into the back ribs. If your arms are only coming up to here, that's fine. But that's where it could benefit you to explore downward dog using blocks under your hands. And this can help to bring your arms closer to your ears using blocks while you're training the lats to support this motion. So we're using downward dog as a way to increase our range of motion in our shoulders, stabilize the shoulders, and of course, strengthen the shoulders. So let's take this into the posture. Now you can come to your back of your mat, sit on your heels, and come into a child's pose. There's a reason I'm doing this in relation to downward dog. So keeping your hips into your heels as much as you can. The reason I say that is because people tend to come forward. So keeping the hips back into the heels. Now walk your fingers out. So you're lengthening through your spine. And just as we did sitting upright, draw your shoulders back, away from the ears, stabilizing the shoulders into the back. And you can move your head side to side, feeling this space between your shoulders and your ears. You can look and see if your hands are shoulder width apart, so your arms are extending straight out from your shoulders. And see that your fingers are spread out wide, and you're pressing down into your fingers, and particularly into the mounds of your index fingers and thumbs. Now, why do I say this? Because it's very common to begin falling into the pinky fingers and the mounds on the outsides of the hands. And this is also changing the rotation through the shoulders. We're losing the integrity through the shoulders. See if you can keep this engagement through the hands, through the fingers, through the knuckles. As you come forward, bringing the hips up, keeping the hands where they are, tuck your toes, keep the toes where they are, and from there, take your hips up and back into downward dog.
And that's the placement, how far you want your hands and feet to be, is actually setting up intentionally from child's pose until you learn the posture for yourself. I mean, you can explore options. You can move your feet closer in, you can move them further back to feel the difference and why I just taught it this way. Now, once you're in downward dog, you can feel into what happens when you don't engage in your hands, when you don't press down through your fingers. Maybe feel how your weight does want to drop out through the hands into the pinky fingers. It's very common. How that feels through your wrists when the weight isn't distributed through your hands and through your fingers. Maybe how that feels differently up through your arms, into your shoulders. And that's why this posture isn't simple. It isn't something to do as a habit. And the reason I want to break this down is because I want us to be mindful through our practice. No matter the posture, no matter how many times we practice it, we can always feel deeper into details to anchor our awareness into the moment, right? This is the point of yoga, right? So let's come down and rest for a minute. You can sit back on your heels, you can rest in child's pose as you listen to me, and just feel the engagement already. Through your arms, through your shoulders. The details that I'm pointing out so far isn't to be a stickler just for the sake of being a stickler. It's actually because I've seen so many people develop wrist problems from practicing downward dog without this awareness of how they can press down through their hands and through their fingers, and perhaps misalignment through their shoulders as well. So they're sinking into their wrists. Another point to make is your elbows. So you can come into the posture. If you have a tendency to lock your elbows, the inside of your elbows will be facing forward. So just look to your elbows and see that the inside of your elbows are facing in toward each other. And if you lock your elbows and you unlock them, your arms might be shaking. Your muscles might not be used to supporting your arms in this way, and that's okay. You can build the strength through time, but you want to keep checking yourself on that and breaking that habit of locking your elbows. Now, the same thing through the lower body. Notice if you're locking through your knees. If so, take a little bend through your knees. And this bend through the knees can also help if you're rounded out through the spine. So just like in any forward fold in yoga, it's the same in downward dog. If you round through your spine to fold forward, your hamstrings might be a little shorter. So you want to bend through your knees so you can extend through your lower back and through the spine. Because the point of downward dog is to open up through the back body, the entire back body, the bladder meridian in Chinese medicine that releases stress through the back body, through the nervous system. Go ahead, come rest down into child's pose if you haven't already. And now if you want to come into downward dog again from child's pose, taking your arms out, coming forward, keeping the hands and toes where they are, tucking the toes, bringing the hips back. Feeling this alignment that we've been working on through the shoulders, the engagement down through the four corners of the palms, down through all of your fingers, the knuckles. And now feeling a lift up through the inner thighs, up through the front of the thighs, so the quadriceps are engaged, the kneecaps are lifted. And this helps create length through your hamstrings. Now, another common mistake is focusing too much on getting the heels to come down to the floor. You actually have to be pretty open to have the heels come all the way down. It's really not the point. The point is to lengthen through the spine, maintain the alignment through the shoulders. Noticing if you lock through your elbows or through your knees. And then feeling the benefits of this inversion. So circulating blood and lymph to the upper body, to the brain, releasing stress from the nervous system, from the bladder meridian. So we're coming out of any stress response of the sympathetic nervous system and coming into the parasympathetic nervous system. And if you want to increase that, you can begin to lengthen your exhales. And come down, rest into child's pose as you need. So that's downward dog. It can be a practice in and of itself for nervous system regulation and also releasing stress from the bladder meridian and restoring our vital energy reserves. I've also created a short practice where downward dog acts as the primary anchor to release stress from the body, mind, emotions, and to restore calm and balance. That practice will come up in a couple days. So if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do so you see that practice when it comes out. And otherwise, the practice will show up on your screen so you can take this deep dive into downward dog, into practice, into a short yoga flow. And let me know in the comments if any of these details are new to you or were particularly helpful. And if you want more tutorials like this, where we can get geeky about yoga postures, and especially ones that are so commonly used and not necessarily broken down in depth, especially when we're using yoga practices on YouTube. Thanks for being here with me in this practice. I'll see you in the next one.